That time, we were actually planning on going away that weekend to kind of reconnect, talk about what we wanted to do. Is counseling working? Should we find another? Like all the things, right? Just to reconnect with each other. We were supposed to go away that weekend, and I remember it was a Friday, and he had just did watch, so an overnight shift, and he was coming home Friday morning, and we were gonna take off, and he never came home. 2008, 3 years after that, my husband is saying, I don't want to be with you anymore. I can't do this anymore. Do you know what that does to a person? The infamous, what can I do to save my marriage kind of thing. And he suggested counseling.
Yes, I suggested it.
Suggested counseling. And we went. And we went until we didn't. Welcome back to our channel. My name is Nikki and this is
Marcel.
And we are Renewed Love. Check this out. Let me just say this before we go any further. Shout out to you for watching our very first YouTube video together. Like getting this man on camera.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And even though this has been a long time coming, we just want to say shout out to you. Thank you. We are happy to have you a part of the RL gang because we are Renewed Love. And we're super ecstatic to have you here. This channel is all about faith, love, marriage, relationships, entrepreneurship, life, all the things, because we all know life be lifing. And so we are here to just have a good time. Like we're gonna do the whole advice thing, the whole sharing our story, and that's actually what this video is about today. Today we are pulling back the curtain and letting you in to our lives, essentially how we got here, who we are,
all the things.
So let's jump into it. So our story is probably like one you've heard before, full of ups and downs, but it's our story. And it's our story that makes it very unique. It brings us to why we are here, because we have a story of love. We have a story of pain and loss. We have a story of reconciliation. We have a story of renewal. And this is why we are here. This is what we're doing here, to share what happened, right? So let's start back from the beginning. How did we meet?
We met.
How did we meet then?
Black Planet.
blackplanet.com. Drop right now in the comments if you remember Black Planet, were ever on it, ever heard it. This is pre-MySpace, right?
This shows our age right here.
It totally shows our age. We did online dating before online dating was an actual thing.
Before it became creepy.
Shout out to Risa Tisa, because girl. So we met on Black Planet. When did we meet?
That was the year of 2001.
Yes, it was 2001.
Yes. I think I saw you had reached out to my best friend at the time.
First, let's address the elephant in the room. I did not reach out to him.
That's what I saw.
No. What you saw was that we were friends as you were creeping on his profile.
My story.
Oh. Well, then you share your side of the story, babe. Then I'm going to share my side.
As I said, saw you put something or something else on his wall, and I was like, huh. You're cute. Let me hit her up. Let me slide in her DMs before sliding in the DM was a thing.
Before it was a thing, for sure.
See, we messaged back and forth. And I finally convinced you to come visit me.
It took some convincing.
Because
even though we were dating, like we did the online thing, we met online. Online stuff is still creepy. Like, I'm a beast behind the keyboard, but now we gotta meet face to face, and I gotta see if you really who you are, who you say you are. Like, I don't know about all that, you know?
Yeah, that was a different time.
Still
a thing though. But
yeah, but it was a different time where I always say it was safer, but I use quotations because it's still online and you're still meeting people that you don't know. But yeah, so you want to keep it going or you want me to pick it up?
Let's see what you got.
So my version of the story is that I was Black Planet friends with his best friend at the time. And I don't remember which one of us added the other. I thought his best friend was cute, but you know, I'm 17. Like it's relative. Anyway, and all of a sudden I get a friend request from him or like this person wants to add you as a friend kind of deal. So I was like, okay, he's cute. He's a little skinny, but he's cute, you know, whatever. And we became friends. And so, yes, he slid into my DMs. We were talking back and forth. I think we ended up exchanging phone numbers. And
I think so, yeah.
we started like texting each other. I remember the very first time that I called his house. I will never forget this story. Very first time I call his house, I'm like, hello, may I speak to Marcel? And his sister answers the phone and she goes, Marcel, some white girl's on the phone for you. And his mom was like, what? She sounded like a bill collector. Like,
yeah, that was a time. I
will never forget that story. So we talked on the phone and ultimately, like, we were almost inseparable, like when we first, for sure when we first met, but like when we were on the phone and having those conversations, it was like wild, like falling asleep on the phone, like all of that, like, no, you hang up, no, you hang up, no, you hang up. Child, it was a hot mess. Anyway, he definitely convinced me to finally come meet him, and I didn't know this at the time, so I asked my best friend at the time to roll with me. And so we get there, and what I didn't know at the time was that we were going to his other best friend at the time. It was the three amigos, three stooges together.
We were inseparable too.
For sure. It was his house, which was right next door to Marcel's house. And I didn't know that at the time. So we get there. And if you know anything about me, especially if you know me from way back in the day, your girl is very shy. I know it doesn't seem like it's but I'm really shy. And I'm a huge introvert, which again, it doesn't seem like it. Actually, I'm both. So like I can typically thrive in an extrovert situation or extroverted situation, but I prefer to like be home, charge, recharge, all of that. Like I am a very much so a homebody. And
then I'm the opposite. I'm the introvert that can navigate in an extrovert way. It's weird.
Well, that's what I just said.
No, you said no.
I'm introverted first, then extroverted. I'm extroverted when I need to be.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're more introverted, I think. Like you are the poster child for introvertedness. You are the complete poster child. So anyway, we get there. My girl is like, hey, you know, so-and-so, like really just outgoing. And I'm sitting there like, hi. Really, like, you guys remember, what movie was that when the girl did her pits like this? And she was like...
It started off as a Saturday night.
No, it was a movie. And then it became, she did it on where Molly Shannon or something, I think her name was. No, dear. Y'all put it in the comments. Tell your girl she right. It was a movie. Anyhow, this is us all day bantering back and forth. So we meet. I could not look at this man. Like how I'm sitting here looking directly at you right now is what I was doing while he was sitting right next to me to my left. So this exact setup.
All true.
I'm looking straight ahead. And he's like, so, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm good.
That was it. Just it.
No conversation whatsoever. But me on the phone, I'm like, oh my God, like, tell me about yourself. Like, what's your favorite color? What do you like to do? Da, 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 da. Me in person, I was like... So we got through that. I thought I completely blew it. I was just like, dude's never going to call me again because you were totally weird and awkward. Like, get your freaking life together. That wasn't the case. It wasn't the case. From that day forward, we were inseparable. Keep in mind, we were in high school.
Separate high schools.
Separate high schools, but we were both in 12th grade. We have to tell that story about how we met but didn't meet, or like how we were. We'll have to tell that at a different time. Yeah. So make sure that you not double tap. Make sure you smash that subscribe button so that you are notified anytime we drop a new video, because that is a really good story, and I think it's a testament to like how God orchestrates things. Yeah. So I can't wait to share that part. Anyhow, we're seniors in high school. We're dating. This was towards the end of 2021. I'm sorry, 2021, 2001.
That's 3 years ago. Man.
I know, right? This is the end of 2001. Towards the end of 2001, where we were dating. We were essentially dating. Young lovebirds, in love.
The butterflies, the flutters.
All the things, all the feels. We had all the feels. Shortly after that, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and of course I said yes. And so we went through that process of just like being in love. We are born and raised in Detroit. I don't know if we said that in the beginning, but we lived like a mile away from each other. So he would always like hop on his bike, or I'd ride over to me. Like we were just always together. My family was way cooler than his family.
Still. I love my family, but still.
About us like kicking it and dating and things like that. Like my family was like real chill. My mom like had her antennas were going off. My father wasn't really in the picture, so if he did say anything, it was just like in one ear out the other, kind of, quite honestly. But yeah, you want to pick it up from there?
I think it was my mom. I'm her only boy, her oldest boy, so I think she was being more protective over me. You know, it wasn't the fact of she had a problem with us, you know, dating and hanging out. It was just young black man
taking her baby away.
Right, a young black man being protective. You know,
rightfully so. Yeah. I think so, rightfully so. And then I think looking back, like hindsight is 2020, right? So looking back in situations, you realize, like, as you get older and we start having children and things like that, we're like, oh, okay, they were really being protective, but it was for a good reason. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I'm trying to cock block or block your love or whatever. But like it was for a genuine good reason.
Yeah. And that, like you said, as I grew up, I saw that. So.
Yeah. After we got together, where do I even go from there? So I've been saved my whole life. I got saved when I was 3. Now, was I living right? Mm-hmm. So with that being said, we got pregnant very, very early in our relationship. And we were both 17. You were 18. Yeah. I was still 17, had no freaking clue, like, what to do, what's going on, what are we going to do? We'll have to share that story about, like, when you know, like, with my mom, like, yeah. But, so ultimately, God made the decision for us. I had a miscarriage at 5.5 months pregnant with our son. His name was Malachi. As I'm like telling this story, I'm thinking about different ideas that like we can talk about, like especially navigating grief and, you know, what it's like to lose a child and how we have overcome a lot of the adversities that we've been through. And I think it's necessary because like I don't see a lot of people having these types of conversations and discussions. And so I think it's like really important and necessary for us to talk about it. So Yeah, for sure. But that was a tumultuous time in our life. We made it. We got through it. We got through high school. We went to prom together. We went to my prom.
No problem.
And prom night is where he proposed to me. So again, we're super, super young. And I knew I never had a story in my life where I saw someone get married young and like still be married. So I wanted to wait. Like I knew we were young and I was just like, I don't want to rush and like just jump in straight out of high school, get married kind of thing. I don't know why I felt that way, but that was my take on it. What was your take?
At that moment, I knew that I wanted to be with you, and like you said, I didn't know. I didn't know anybody personally that was getting married that young. So doing it then and knowing that I wanted you in my life, that was why I proceeded that way. And now that I think about it, I don't even. There wasn't even good examples of anybody getting married, not even just young. It goes deeper than that. So
And that's essentially what I was about to say. We didn't have any good examples of what marriage looked like in our lives. So let this be a lesson or a reminder. Like you don't need to have a quote unquote good example of what a godly marriage looks like or marriage in general for you to embark on your own journey. Like you get to decide that with your partner what your marriage is going to look like. So for me, like my mom and my father were married, but they got a divorce when I was 12 years old. And for me, it was like one of the best times of my life because I got to have my mom to myself. I'm an only child. He has siblings, you know. My aunt and uncle were divorced. They were still good friends and still remain really good friends to this day, but they were divorced. She remarried and ultimately he passed away. My grandmother and my grandfather, they were best of friends. Honestly, I didn't find out that they were divorced until I was like 13 years old. And I was like, what do you mean you guys are divorced? Like, are you serious? Like, y'all have the best relationship. And I remember my grandmother told me like, she said, sometimes people are better off as friends than they are married together. And I was like, ah. And as I have gotten older, I get it. But they were like best of friends, but they were divorced. So I didn't have any good representations of what it looked like to have a long sustaining marriage. Especially to have God in the center, in the forefront, all around and through your marriage. I didn't see that growing up. What was your experience?
my experience, I didn't. First of all, my mom and dad weren't married. I don't even think they were together long after I was born. So I had an aunt that was married at one point in time, and I know she got divorced from him and remarried somebody else. So no clue.
Are they still married?
No, they're divorced too. No. Yeah.
So we didn't have really good representations of what marriage looked like. So we did the whole, you know, if you were ever born and raised in the church, the shacking up thing. We lived together. We went off to college, or I went off to college first. He followed shortly, about a year or so later. So we did long distance for a hot second. Not too long because we were still in Michigan. I was about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the city.
Even, about 45 minutes.
Was it?
Yeah.
I feel like it was
About 45
longer.
minutes.
I feel like it was way longer than that.
I
I
do
feel
too.
like at least an hour and 15, give or take. But that's just my take. Anyway. And so like I wasn't too far away, and thank God that I was not too far away. Shortly after, like I said, so this was 2002 around this time. I'm off to college. I'm still 17 years old. I am living in my own place. I am in school, like doing the thing, right? I'm doing work study at the school, that kind of thing. And he comes up shortly after. We live together. You know, now that I think about it, my parents didn't say much about us living together
No.
because they knew.
That's when you moved to the other place.
Because my father helped.
Yeah. I wasn't living there.
You weren't?
No. Not in the first place.
You sure?
Yeah. 'Cause I was
You
still in Detroit.
Was up a lot?
Yeah.
It felt like
Yeah.
you did. Okay. Anyhow, So he comes up, we go to school. Nothing ever happens again in the far as the sense of like us getting pregnant or anything like that, but we were essentially living together. Eventually we both just decided like school's not, we need to work, we need to make money, we need to pay these bills. We got rent, we got bills. I didn't have a car note, but we had one car. Like let's just focus on work. We'll go back to school later. This is around 2006, early 2007 by this time. So we're looking like, okay, we've been together for a little minute. We have made it through. We're in our 20s now. Let's start thinking about, really solidifying this thing and getting married. And so we essentially end up getting married May 26th, which is our son's birthday, May 26th, 2007. Prior to that, though, we made a decision, I guess, essentially. He was looking to kind of go back to school. We had learned more about the military. And ultimately, you decided to join. So he joined the Navy. It was a whirlwind.
Yeah, it was really fast.
It was a whirlwind. What I forgot to mention, let me back up because there's another grief story. So we had our son in 2002. He was born and then passed away the same day. 3 years after that, which was 2005, my mom passed away. And again, I'm a mama's girl. So you want to talk about devastation? Devastation. Like depression, being debilitating depression where I would not leave my room. I quit my job, like all the things.
I think it rocked us both in different ways.
It did, for sure, because you had your own relationship with my mom. So, and I think ultimately it was like the push to join the military so that we could have a sustainable income, if I'm honest. Definitely. So fast forward 2007, we get married May 26th. On our son's birthday to turn a sad occasion into a happy occasion, and to remember our child. So that was May. June, you're off to boot camp.
Shipped me off.
Shipped off to boot camp in Chicago. I don't see him again until August.
For the graduation, yeah.
For his boot camp graduation. He graduates. Congratulations. He's now a sailor. Spent a weekend, maybe 2 days. Yeah, together. Shipped off to
A school in Pensacola, Florida.
So Pensacola, Florida. I'm back in Detroit, or not Detroit, but I'm back in Michigan, and you're gone for 2 months, 2.5 months.
Like 2.5, yeah.
Yeah. So he calls me up and says, "Hey, I'm picking duty stations. Where do you want to go?" I was like, "Someplace warm. If California's on the list, send me to California." And here's one thing I knew, like growing up, I always knew that I was a California girl. I loved everything about California. Had never in my entire life been to California. Never. I loved everything. Everything I saw in a video, everything I saw in photos. I was like, I'm going to California. It's forever warm in California. This is where we're going. We actually did visit California in 2005. We went to San Francisco twice. And we were blown and shocked out of our minds because I assumed, being a Midwesterner, that all of California was hot and warm. That was what you were going to get. Bro. We went to San Francisco in July, and it was freezing cold. We went back in August, it was freezing cold. The two hottest, one of the, like, I think, what is that, countrywide? Yeah. Like, that's essentially the hottest months of the year. No. I was like, if California's in the list, that's where I want to go. And so we had, I don't know, how many options did we have? I remember you said San Diego, and I felt like there was a couple more options.
I don't remember the other options, but it was at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 choices.
So ultimately we got San Diego. I got this news probably because you were in A school from September. October, November. Yeah, so I got this news probably like November-ish. He came back December, the first week of December. So I remember he missed Thanksgiving and I cooked this big old Thanksgiving dinner. I am such an entertainer. Like, I love cooking for people. And so I made this big old dinner, had my neighbors over. We all hung out. They were supporting me, lifting me up because my man wasn't there for my birthday. He wasn't there for Thanksgiving. And he came back, and we literally had days to move. He's like, I'll be back on this date. We need to be in San Diego by this date. Okay, don't worry about packing. The military will pack us up. Even better. So I'm home trying to get life together and situated because, oh my gosh, we're moving clear across the world. What do we do? So we're booking flights. We are getting the mover situated. We are like doing all these little things. And ultimately we get to California, December 7th, 2007. So please keep up with the timetable. Keep up with the timeline. We got married in May of 2007. He leaves for boot camp in June of 2007. I see him briefly in August 2007. He's off to school towards the end of August 2007. I don't see him again until December 2007, and we're moving clear across the world. Caught up? Cool. January 2008, he's like, we're deploying.
Shipped out again.
Keep in mind, we get to San Diego and we're homeless. So we're navigating being newlyweds. We're still grieving from the death of our child, the death of my mother. We are in a brand new city. We're in a brand new state. We are in a brand new season of our lives. And we are 22 and 23. Handling all of this. So we live out of a motel for a month and a half, and he's deployed. We get our place right before he deploys. So I, again, am dealing with movers. I'm dealing with all of this by myself in a brand new place. Back then there were like forums and chat rooms and things like that. So that kind of gave me a little bit of grace. So we got to meet people as we got here. I will never forget. It was called lovingmysailor.com.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. We met some great people. Shout out to you. You know who you are. That kind of helped us, kind of show us the ropes and things of that nature. And so essentially, like I said, we get into our place. He's deployed, and I'm trying to make a house a home. Your turn.
My turn. Want to go back to even before we moved to San Diego. I remember you said you were making phone calls about the housing, you know, making sure we had a place to live before we even got here. They said, yeah, just come on out. We got room. We got space. Yes. Come on out. We got room. We got space. All to come to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was the most like ego deflating situation.
I could see that.
Yeah. So sure. While she's handling all the, you know, getting the place, handling everything. I don't remember seeing if I saw the place before we signed it.
I think you did. Yeah, you did. I remember you in the office. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a process. Like it just felt like we were just getting bounced around from left to right, just for me to leave as soon as she signed the papers.
How did we wind up as a divorced couple? Yeah. So I'm kicking it over to you. I ain't got nothing to say.
So, deployment started the second week of January. It was supposed to be a 4-month deployment, I'm sorry. It ended up being 7 to 8 months. 7. My first deployment, we're literally out of the state, away from our family. We both knew no one. I think I knew a few friends from high school, or that was attached to the same ship as me, but that was about it. That actually led to me feeling me being out there alone, not knowing anybody, experiencing all these new things, new places. Excuse me. And that blow of, they told us to come on out. We had space. It was a big ball of emotion, just going, just going, just going.
I feel like they like emotion, like it's like it's a stack, like it's like the Jenga blocks.
Yeah.
It's like on top of each other, like all the things that were taking place, and it's that one piece that like kicks you right over and it's like shatters. And I think that one piece was not only being in a new place, a new job, a new position. You've never been on that type of ship before, and now you're like in this, you're thrusted into this new life, and you don't know anybody. You know what I mean? Like we're still very young. We don't know anybody. We're in this foreign place, and it's disheartening to know, like, okay, I could do 4 months. We've kind of essentially done it. Like, I went to boot camp, I went to school, and we were apart for this amount of time. But to then say, oh, we're gonna extend it to, originally they said 6 months. They said, I mean, like from the 4 months, it was going to be extended to 6 months, which then got extended further. So it was like, oh my gosh, like, I just want to go home. Let me figure out life. And it was just like this whirlwind. Yeah, it was
one thing after another. One thing after another.
Not that I'm making excuses.
Right. There's no excuses. I did end up meeting someone, and things happen, things that happen that poured over into, our personal life of when I returned home from deployment. And if you don't know, yes, there was infidelity. If you couldn't draw the lines.
Couldn't connect those dots?
Yeah. I got home when this affair was, supposed to be ended. And there was just still I wouldn't say attraction, I wouldn't say connection, but
it was a disconnect from home life, but that was what you had got used to. That's
so
where
it was
you were. First,
a drawing to this other woman that it led to everything still happening once I got home. We finally got to the bottom of it. Not to the bottom of it, but it came out between you and me what happened. You could kick it off there.
Because I look at your ass and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say about that. It was it was a lot, it was a lot. Like, Marcel is my best friend. He has always been my best friend since the moment we met. Like, although in my shyness and all of that, there's just a level of comfortability that we have with each other that, like, we just became best friends. Like, we have so many of the same nuances or inside jokes and things that, like,
especially now.
It's like wild how much, like, we mirror sometimes each other. Even like we have mutual friends that are like, you guys make the same sound effects, or like we've just been around each other for like 20 plus years. Like, it has not changed. But yeah, so I just think, like, with the nuances of life, like things that were taking place, not making excuses, but like now hindsight 2020, realizing like, I can see how this happened, or I can see how you went down this direction. I'm not saying it's right. And even like this will always be the thing that I will say, is that even though Marcel was an amazing man, still is, he's such a kind-hearted soul, will give you the shirt off of his back, like a beautiful, beautiful soul, but he made some really stupid decisions. And this was one of those stupid decisions. He went down a trajectory and a path and a cycle that the enemy had him in that he could not escape from. I remember when we were sitting and talking about what took place, what happened, how did we get here? Like, if you're keeping up with the timeline, like, we barely spent any time together. So you're telling me now my marriage is over before it even got started. And I never wanted to be, this was one of the things that we said with our families and not being able to see successful marriages. Like, what happened to them and what they went through would not be our story. And now I'm staring down the barrel of what is our story. And so we, got through all of that discussion. He, the infamous, what can I do to save my marriage kind of thing. And he suggested counseling.
Yes, I suggested it.
Suggested counseling. And we went. And we went until we didn't. We went for a month and a half. We're in 2008 during this time. So July 2008. By August, I was receiving a text message that said, I can't do this anymore. And at that time, we were actually planning on going away that weekend to kind of reconnect, talk about what we wanted to do. Is counseling working? Should we find another? Like, all the things, right? Just to reconnect with each other. We were supposed to go away that weekend. And I remember it was a Friday. And he had just did watch, so an overnight shift. And he was coming home Friday morning. And we were going to take off. And he never came home. He never came home. And ultimately, that was the end of my marriage.
I think in that, not saying that I felt like you were supposed to move on from the infidelity quickly. In my mind, I thought that was, once we started going to counseling, it was supposed to just keep rolling, and we moved on with our lives. But I didn't give you the time to process it. It was on my timeline that I felt like it was supposed to move quickly, and that was the overall why I said, I just couldn't do it at that time,
Looking back, I believe that it was crazy hard to have to see this person every day at work, have to come home to this person every day, and be reminded of what you did and why you did it, and who you did it with. That's not that's a hard place to be in, because you can't be like, oh, let me just get up and go find another job. Yeah. Like, it's the military. Like,
contracts.
You're stuck until you're not. I did think in that moment that it's unfair, or it was unfair for you to expect me to be done and get over it, essentially. I thought that was very selfish, and we've since had discussions about that. But then looking back, like, I'm thinking as I'm listening to you and hearing myself tell this story, looking back, when we were younger, we both made stupid decisions. We both had affairs on each other. The only difference was that we weren't married. Right. And it was like, for me, okay, we have signed on this dotted line. This means that we can't do X, Y, and Z. Like, this is a covenant. This is what we signed up for. And it was essentially like all that went out the window. Like, we were still just boyfriend, girlfriend, or fiance and fiance. And that's what felt like the blow more so. Like, there was no fight for this relationship. Right. After everything that we had been through, from, getting together at such a young age, essentially growing up together, having a child, losing my mother, and now I'm losing my marriage 3 years later. So my life was a complete F5 tornado. 2002, I have my child, lose my child. 2005, 3 years later, I lose my mother at the age of 47. 2008, 3 years after that, my husband is saying, I don't want to be with you anymore. I can't do this anymore. Do you know what that does to a person? Like, I'm still healing from something that took place 6 years ago. And now another curveball is thrown at me. And so, I think this will be a separate part of how we did life separately. But let's kind of transition. So how are we here again?
How did we
get here? We literally had 6.5, almost 7 years of no contact.
None at all.
In the early stages, like there were emails back and forth, there were text messages. We both disconnected our phones, got off the family plan that we were on. Man.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
We're disconnecting.
I had to downsize places. Had to meet up with him to give him like his stuff, clothes, and all the stuff that he was taking. So essentially, we were separated for 2 years, I think, because this was 2008. And our divorce was finalized. We were just trying to figure that out. I think it was 9 or 10. I'm pretty sure it was 10 though.
Yeah.
I feel like it was 10.
Officially, once it got fine, yeah, I think it was 2010.
Yeah. I'm so salty at the fact that you served me. Had me served on Christmas.
People, I did not pick the date for them to serve her.
I'm still salty about that. Christmas
Whoever
Day.
that lawyer was, you know it.
Christmas Day. Who does that?
Some very
I didn't even think people served people on the holidays.
very salty people.
Me, I was salty. I was salty.
Some people ain't got no families to go home to on Christmas.
Jeez. Anyhow, so after that first initial few months, we really didn't have contact with each other. It was very limited. Occasionally, I would think about him and send him emails, and I would get a response back. You could tell though, I don't know about you, this would be a great opportunity to find out about you. I felt like there was still something there because that was 7.5, what was it, 7 years that we had been together? 7.5 years that we had been together?
Yeah.
It just doesn't go away overnight.
It doesn't.
So I felt like in those email correspondences, there was still something
there. I was, at that moment in time, at the initial separation and everything, it was more, I thought that I'd done too much damage that she wouldn't want to take me back. So
his response to that was to be as mean and evil as he possibly could. Make it make sense, sir. The math is not math.
It didn't make any sense.
The math is not math.
The dots didn't line up.
They didn't connect.
No.
Yeah, because that didn't make sense to me. Anyhow, until eventually there was no contact. There was no contact. And now, if you know anything about me, you know that I am a private investigator in a previous life. And so I knew everything that was going on in his life, but made sure he knew nothing about what was going on in my life. I knew everything. And so 6.5 years, no contact. 2013, I meet the woman. And that is a whole story in itself. Oh my gosh, that has to be a separate video. I meet the woman. We discuss some things, blah, blah, blah. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. You have to subscribe because we got tea, man. We got tea. And then almost a year to the day, I hear from her. She gives me some information. I research that information because, like I said, I'm a detective. I research that information and I'm like, oh, snap. So let me back up a little bit. 2013 was also the year that God was really heavily putting him on my mind. And I couldn't understand it because I'm like, bro, I'm trying to live my life. I'm trying to move on. I'm trying to, hang out with Bae. What are we doing? And because I had completely moved on, he had completely moved on. There was no communication between the two of us. And so I'm like, God, why am I always thinking about him? Why do you keep giving me dreams about him? Why are you telling me to pray for him? What are we doing here? And he kept telling me to reach out to Marcel. And I was like, no. No. Couldn't be hearing properly. Do you ever vacillate between when God is telling you to do something, and you're like, that wasn't God, that was me. That was all me. That was me in my brain. Or devil, I rebuke you. We'll go that way too in the spiritual spectrum. Like, devil, I rebuke
That
you.
wasn't even God's voice.
Right? Exactly. That's what I was doing. And for 365 days, it was back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And I was like, no, that is my voice. You're crazy. No. And so ultimately, I was very much so disobedient. I did not reach out. Found out what I found out, came back, and I was like, oh, this is why I should have reached out. Okay, so I put my big girl britches on, and I sent him an email. And all I said was, hey, I know I'm the last person you expect to hear from. I just want you to know that you have somebody praying for you. And I was done. I left it at that. That is literally verbatim what I said. I didn't hear anything back. So I was cool. I was like, cool. I did not expect any type of like communication. Like I was good. I said what I said. I said what I said. And that was it. Like I was good. 2 weeks later, I get a response.
She sent the email, and at this point in my life, I was at a very low point, and she was the very last person I had expected to hear from.
Me too.
Like I wasn't hearing from family, friends, nothing. Like the very last person, and honestly is what I needed at that time. I thank her for listening to God's voice finally. Because it was needed. It was definitely needed. And that's when things took a turn.
Did they take a turn. Yeah. So, as you can imagine, there were a lot of unanswered questions during our separation where I was not able to get closure. How did we go from let's get away, let's try to reconnect to I can't do this anymore? And then now you're with her. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot that does to a person's psyche, number one. And then also like, how do I move past this? How do I heal from this when I'm unable to get the answers to the questions that I have? And so because we were in therapy, the therapist then began to just work with me solo dolo. And I 1000% appreciate that. Because I'm sure like many of you, we grew up in a culture where you just don't tell people your problems. Like you don't take this outside of the family. And same with you.
Yeah.
I'm a huge advocate of therapy. I'm a huge advocate of counseling and coaching and things of that nature. And so I was like, listen, I know this is different circumstances, but can you still see me? And she said yes. And so phenomenal. Like I owe her like just the tools and just to help me. And it wasn't even just about the marriage. It's about a lot of the psychological things that I went through as a child. Childhood trauma. And so it was such a beautiful full circle moment. Not even full circle moment, but it's just a beautiful moment to kind of go through that transition. And although it didn't feel good in the moment, out of it, now on the other side of it, I'm like, oh, that was so needed. It was so necessary. And one of the things that we always say is that what my grandmother said, right? Like sometimes you're good as a couple, but you may be better off as friends. But for our situation, we had a lot of maturing to do. And we will kind of go through like what took place while we were separated and what we needed to go through. But there was a lot of maturing that needed to take place. Ultimately, because of the grief and the trauma and the drama in my own life, my husband became my God. And he was here, God was down here. Like, I got to talk to my husband. I got to do this for my husband. my man, more than I was talking to God, more than I was saying, God, I'm hurting. I'm in pain. I am depressed. I am oppressed. I was going to him. So now he's my God, and God has no room. It's like, I'll deal with God later. Right now, let me talk to this God, essentially. And the Bible tells us God is a jealous God. And I'm a firm believer that if you don't get your life together, if you don't sit down and get in his face, he's going to sit you down. And ultimately, between the two of us, we had two different situations where we got sat down. Mm-hmm. I got sat down. I needed to go through this divorce. I needed to figure out who I was and grow and mature and become the woman that God created me to be. And he needed to mature and grow.
And rely on God only.
Solely. Yeah. Solely relying on God. Because even in the separation, for me, it was a time where I needed to be still. Right? I needed to heal. I needed to go through a lot of healing because, like I said, the tornado that ripped through my life, it was something that happened back to back to back to back. And it's like, okay, who are we? What are we doing? Right? And so it allowed me the opportunity to get to know God in a way that I once did not know him. And then also to, like I said, heal and become the woman that he needed me to be in that season. God needed me to be in that season. And who he called me to be. And even still, like to this day, this thing that we're doing right now is a completely new season for us. That it's uncharted territory, unfamiliar territory, and it's scary. Like in our humanism, this is a scary time for us because we're putting ourselves out there. We're being vulnerable. We are like giving you the real and the raw of who we are. And that's scary. But this is the trajectory that God has us on in becoming who we are, who we were created to be. We didn't go through what we went through in our lives and in our marriages. Our marriages.
Just to keep it to ourselves.
Just to keep it to ourselves. Like, I'm a firm believer that the things that we go through in life is not for you. It's for the edification of someone else. It's to help. It's to be a blessing, to be encouraging to someone else. It's not even for you. You just have been the chosen vessel to go through what you've gone through. So, the reconnection. How did we get to the point of where we are right now? Because mommy. How did we get here, babe?
So, again, the last person I expect to reach out to me. Email back and forth, communicated back and forth.
Mm-hmm. A lot.
I think I start calling you again eventually.
Do you mind if I get your number? Yes, I mind.
Let's try it again.
Slide into my DMs.
I think it could, because it was in the communicating back and forth, the emails, it was like having a little piece of me back in my life and getting back to what we were.
Keep in mind, I had no intention on going down this road again.
I know where things were going.
You didn't know where it was going?
At that moment.
But you were open? Or were you? Oh, I didn't know that. The door was closed. Baby, that thing was locked, guarded with 6 tall angels. You wasn't getting up in here. Not up in my heart.
In 2 ways. Again, talking back and forth. Then I convinced you again to meet up.
He did convince me again to meet up with him. We were probably about 45 minutes or so away from each other in California. Right, again. Wow, that is so weird. Yes. He drove. down to meet me. We met at Panera Bread. I love Panera.
Shout out Panera.
I miss Panera. Panera, if you want to sponsor a video, like
We down. We down.
Yeah, so he comes down and I am fine, baby. Okay, let me tell you something. I got my natural hair out, which by the way, I had never did beforehand. I'm pretty sure we'll throw in some pictures somewhere around in here that you probably already seen. I got a cute dress on. It was a maxi dress. Like, baby, I was fine. Do you hear me? I was fine. Face was a beat. I was fine. I get there. I'm late, of course, because this takes time.
We working on it. We working.
Good luck. Good luck with that. I get there, he's standing outside, and he like hugs me. And so I hug him like he's my little brother or something. By the way, he's older than me. But I hug him like, oh, hey, like, what's up? And this time, now that I'm thinking about this, as we're talking about this, I was nervous to see you again, but it wasn't like day one, 2001.
I think that was back on me.
It was, because I was like,
one this time.
Chatty Cathy. I'm like, what's up? How you doing? Because there was nothing there for me. There was nothing. The moment that I saw him and the moment that I hugged him, I'm like, cool, we're friends. I can do friends. That was where I was at. And so I felt like maybe that was more comfortable. Like I felt like I was maybe in this more comfortable place. But like I was, Chatty Cathy. You were very quiet, very reserved, observant, which is you normally, but like...
It was way different.
It was way different. Ultimately, we chatted for... we talked for several hours. Yeah. And then we ended up going to church. Mm-hmm. We went to church. He met some of my friends, and... they, of course, everybody that meets him loves him, so it's like, whatever. He's such a great guy. Like, oh my God. Yeah, he's fine. Anyway, what did you think of that experience? Because, like, I just kind of thrusted you. I think you asked, like, did you go to church yet? Like, because the church that I was going to at the time had, like, 5 different services. So, I don't think I had went that morning, and so...
I think in that moment, I think I was led to go to church because it had been years since I'd been in a church, and I needed that. I needed that atmosphere, that experience again. And I just needed to sit in his presence because I think at that time I had strayed very far away. So I knew that I could trust you enough to get back into church.
What do you mean trust me enough to get back in the church?
Because I knew you wouldn't steer me wrong to the wrong church. Mm. And I trusted you enough to be there with me and walk that out.
That's good. I like that. Yeah.
That just came to me.
So we went to church. Met some of my friends and things like that. I think we went out to eat again. Because by that time it was later in the evening. So we ate again, and then he dropped me back off at the house. And then what happened?
The infamous chin grab. I don't know if I could call it chin grab, but...
Okay, so hopeless romantic over here. Me, right? You know, in the movie, you got the guy and the girl, and he drops her back off. He walks her to the door, and they kind of like turn away from each other, and they're like, okay, bye. And she goes to open her door, and he comes back, and he like grabs her face, lifts her chin, and just plants a big juicy kiss on her. And she's like, ah. That's what happened. He did the chin thing, yo. He's never done that. I don't think anybody in my life has ever done that to me. He did the chin thing. Like, just grab the chin, and it's just like, oh, that was sexy. Like, where'd that come from? And he kissed me, and I was not ready. I was not prepared.
She wasn't ready.
She wasn't ready at all. I was thoroughly confused. I remember, like, for a week straight, I was pondering what the heck just happened. I was so confused. Like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean, God? What does this mean? I didn't know, because that's not what I expected. So for me, I was like I said, what are we doing? Because as speechless as I am right now, that's how I was that day. Like, no clue. What is this, God? Like, what are we doing here? And ultimately, we made the decision together to go to counseling, like for real this time, and really work through our issues, the issues that we had separately, the issues that we had together. Because at the end of the day, this was our thing. Regardless if we try to do this again and go down this path together, or if we chose to go our separate ways and understand, like, okay, this is not going to work, but at least, we can remain friends. We still needed the healing. We still needed to find out who we were. We still needed to go through the process of losing our child. Mm-hmm. You and your grief of my mom, me losing my mother, like all the things, we still needed to go through that, because we had a large chunk of our life together. I think at this point we have more years together than we do separately. Mm-hmm. And so we ultimately knew that regardless of whatever path we were going to take, we needed to heal. And the only way to do that was with a professional. And so we did it. And 2016, we got remarried. And we have been remarried now for 7, almost 8 years. This year is our... We'll be 8 years old this year.
8 years old.
On the 6th of May, because apparently we can't get rid of May. May is also his birthday month too, so that was great. Who set the date? Was that you or me? Our anniversary is literally 3 days before his birthday.
I don't remember who said it, but
May is a crazy busy month for us. Yeah. So anyhow, and now we're here. So we have been through a lot of trauma, a lot of drama, a lot of ebbs and flows of life, of marriage. And we believe hardcore that this year God is doing something amazing for families and marriages in general. And so what perfect time than in the love month to share our story, to introduce you to who we are, to our channel, to what you can expect, and all of those fun things. But before we get to what we can expect, what people can expect from our channel, what would you say is one of the biggest lessons you learned throughout this entire process?
For me, it's going to have to be forgiveness.
That was going to be mine.
Oh, see.
Go ahead.
Beat you to it. In a sense, it's not just for forgiveness for each other, but forgiveness for ourselves. It's been a tough journey. Mm-hmm. Not to pit us against each other. We both had our wrongdoings. We both made mistakes. So it's
100%
forgiving each other, forgiving ourselves, and moving past it, getting past it. And just enjoying that ride, the roller coaster.
The adventure. Let's say adventure, because neither one of us likes roller coasters.
You're right.
No, we don't like roller coasters.
Especially not in my adult years.
Nah. The way my fear of heights set up, I'm good, bro. For me, I would have to say probably communication. I believe that a lot of what we went through, had we been effective communicators, we probably wouldn't have gone through.
I don't think we were taught to be effective communicators.
Which is true, because again, as you can see, we are both African American, and that is a standard in the African American household where you don't talk about your problems. You don't talk about how you're feeling and what's bothering you and what's going on, and you just sweep it under the rug. And now we have a molehill that is now turned into a mountain, and we just walking around it. Nobody's saying anything. Nobody's doing anything about it. And so I think For me, communication, overly communicating sometimes, I think is important in certain moments and certain seasons because, and we'll get through this in other videos, but I still have a lot of insecurity around what happened. Or not a lot, but I still struggle with insecurity around what happened. And you don't know that if I'm not communicating that with you or to you, and all of a sudden I'm freaking out and I'm, da 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 da, and you're like, I just asked you what you wanted for breakfast. Like, you know what I'm saying? So if I'm not sharing, like, hey, I'm feeling some insecurities rising up. Can we talk about it? Can we pray? That kind of thing. And so for me, communication is huge. Like, I need you to overly communicate with me. How you're feeling, what you're doing, what's happening, where are we, etc. So that's what I would say. What can people expect as they tune into our brand new channel? Don't forget to subscribe, by the way.
Y'all better subscribe. I'm just saying.
I got this man in front of a camera.
You got me.
To subscribe.
You have to. What can they get? What can the peoples get?
The peoples?
The peoples. A lot of love, a lot of faith, a lot of journeying through life. Not just from our end, but also journeying through your personal life, through your marriage with your spouse, your relationship with your boyfriend, girlfriend. A lot of journeying, how to navigate that. I think this has been, like you said earlier, it's been a journey for us.
We always have this saying that we've been saying lately, which is marriage is a journey, not
a destination.
Absolutely. So people think like, oh, I'm married, that's it. But like, it's not. It is so far from that. Like, it is a complete journey that you are taking with the person that you have chose to say I do to create this covenant with, that the person that you've chosen to have this covenant with, it's not just a destination. Like, there's a whole life that takes place after that. It's not just you anymore. It's you and. So on this specific channel, I think there's going to be a lot of discussions, of course, where you will hear our perspective together. Some things we agree on, some things we probably don't agree on.
And that's okay.
And then also, like, just life, because life be lifing. There's a lot that is taking place in people's lives, and I think this is just the creative outlet for us to share, for other people to come on our platform and share, for us to answer questions, give advice. We've been in this game for 22 years.
We owe.
Off and on, like, more on than off. So like, and then just again, life and circumstances and experiences and things that we've gone through. We definitely have a lot of wisdom and a lot of things to be able to share. But I would say that is some things you can expect. And like I said in the beginning, like faith, love, marriage, entrepreneurship, because your girl's a business coach. And listen,
we do all the things.
We have 7 businesses together.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
We do a lot, yo. Like, we do a lot. So you're definitely going to get a lot of that. And just us. Like, we're a vibe, yo. We're a vibe. And with that being said, we want you to be a part of the vibe. We want you to be a part of the Renewed Love Gang, the RL Gang.
RL Gang.
And the only way to do that is by subscribing. So what are you waiting for? Like, you mean to tell me you watched all of this video and you still haven't subscribed?
You still haven't subscribed.
You haven't liked the video yet? You didn't share it with your girl? I'm questioning.
We're going to have some problems.
What are you doing with your life? Come on, hit the button. We'll wait. You think they hit it yet?
They better have.
Alright, so we have come to the end of this amazing video. Thank you so much for journeying with us. Thank you for being a part of the RL Gang. We truly, truly appreciate you. And drop your questions in the comments. Anything that we missed that you want answers to. We are literally open books. So we have no problems with answering any questions. We will definitely do a video about it. So make sure you drop your questions. Make sure you drop what you want us to be talking about on this channel. Anything that comes to mind. That we have a lot of videos lined up. Like just even in this video alone, I was like, oh, we can talk about that. Oh, we can talk about that. Oh, we can talk about that. So I'm pretty sure like you'll be stacked with some videos. Okay, so we have to say, I had to write it down because your girl, like, I had to write it down. So we got to say our thing, right? Until next time, keep the faith, love deeply, and forgive freely. Bye.